All right. Thank you for joining us today. We know that there's a lot of things that's on your mind, especially the well-being of your family and even yourself. I'm sure there's a lot of anxiety out there and you must be feeling it. And I know that I'm feeling it as well. The last thing that I want to do is to tell you that everything's going to be all right and then ignore your feelings. Experts like Paul Christmer, a leading psychiatrist, says that people have to acknowledge the fear, the anxiety, panic, and worry that they might be experiencing. However, he also says that we should not wallow in the negative emotional space too long. In other words, we should not let fear overwhelm us and hold us captive. We should take action to change the things that we can change. We all have different things that we can focus on. And the one thing that I've always felt that I had control over, and hopefully you have control over yourself, is attitude, right? That we have control over our attitudes. So, how we maintain a positive attitude through all this is kind of what the topic is about for today. And so, we'll be providing some tips on how to stay positive in difficult times. So I'm just going to share my thoughts that has helped me and stay positive through difficult times, as well as tips from some other experts. Now, I've personally had my share of crises over the last year. Uh, you know, those saying when it rains, it pours. Well, it's poured on me quite a bit over the last year. Everything from my wife having to be hospitalized, and we pretty much spent 8 months of the last year in the hospital. Uh, Having her elderly parents who lived with us, that challenge. Also, my brother back home had some health issues. And on top of all that, I started a new job. So you can imagine the stress that that brings, right? Trust me, I love doing what I do, but with all the other things that compiled on me, there was definitely some stressful times. There are two basic things that I've learned over the past year. One of those is to breathe. I know that sounds strange for most of us because we're like, hey, that's what I do. I breathe every day. But we'll talk a little bit more about that because though we breathe, we don't necessarily intentionally breathe. And explain that in a bit. And the other thing is to take care of myself, right? That we have to learn how to take care of ourselves. And there's a commercial that you guys may have seen online with Carrie Underwood, where she's, exercising and doing all types of things to take care of herself. And in the midst of that commercial, she basically says that, she kind of feel guilty sometimes because of taking care of herself first or putting herself first. But sometimes you have to do that. You have to put yourself first sometime in order to take care of other people. I kind of use the analogy of when you're on the plane and the airline attendant is giving their spiel, and they tell you when the mask drops down, especially if you have a child, to put yours on first. And the reason for that is so that you are able to then take care of the child. If you pass out, it does the child no good, right? So it's very important for us to remember to take care of ourselves. Even if we don't put ourselves first all the time, we should definitely try to put ourselves first some of the time. So my first advice to everyone is to breathe. And I told you that was one of the things that helps me stay positive. Not only to breathe, but keep breathing. Therefore, before we go any further, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk you through a breathing exercise that can help relieve stress. Now, most of us never consciously think about breathing since it is so instinctive. However, improper breathing can cause you to feel tired, have headaches, tension, and other stress related symptoms. So give me a minute of your time. And for those of you that are reluctant to do it, please just indulge me for a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, okay? And we're going to walk through a quick breathing exercise. And all you're going to do is you're just going to breathe in deeply, inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. So I'm going to start a quick 2-minute timer. So go ahead and just breathe in deeply. Exhale. Now, they say that you should breathe in, or your exhale should be twice as long as your inhale. So in this breathing exercise, I'm recommending that you inhale for like 5 seconds and exhale for about 10 seconds. Now, all this time you're breathing in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Now, the amount of time that you do is up to you. When you're not used to doing this breathing exercise, trust me, you might only be able to do 2 seconds in and 4 seconds out. That's fine. Just get started. And throughout your day, at the beginning of the day, and for me, I like to do it at the end of the day, but you can do this throughout the day. Just take a few minutes, a minute, 2 minutes, and just do some deep breathing exercise. A little meditation. So I'm going to kind of be quiet for about the next 30 seconds and let you guys just meditate and breathe in. Hopefully your eyes are closed. You're not thinking about anything but breathing. All righty. How did that feel? Hopefully you guys feel more relaxed. Some of that stress went out. As you're exhaling, that's when you're kind of letting all the stress out, right? You're letting your shoulders relax and you're letting the stress out. So you're inhaling and then just let everything go. So I hope that this helps and that you make it part of your daily routine. If you have like a smartphone, a watch, a tablet, there's a bunch of apps out there that can help you meditate, and I recommend that you get one. Now, so what has your day been like since you got started working from home, or since we were sent home and told that we couldn't work from the office anymore? Hopefully everything is going well and the stress monster is not dragging you down and you're enjoying your time at home. Either way, I hope that you won't let stress take over your life. If the stress monster is chasing you, then there are ways of getting away from it, even for a few moments. And that's what we're going to give you some tips on doing. So the first tip is to think positive, right? Think positive is the first step in a positive attitude. I know that it's hard when there's a lot of negative news floating around. History has proven, though, that this too shall pass, and that this crisis is going to end at some point, and we're going to kind of go back to our regular life. Okay, so just we have to have a positive attitude and believe that this is going to get better. Tony Robinson or Robbins, who is a motivational speaker, in case you don't know him, he says to think and stay positive, you should talk to optimistic and positive people. It can seem easier to go negative and stay there than it is to look at the many positive things that happen around us every day. That's why having someone that you can talk to that is uplifting is vital. For me, out of all the things that happened over the last year, the two positive things that always brought me back to the positive side is that I have two brand new grandbabies that were born around that time. And of course, you know, the joy of a grandbaby, if you have one, or even a baby, you know, it's a big deal. So that helped me. And I always felt that that was just visiting them or getting on FaceTime and just being able to see them was uplifting for me. And then when you're on the phone and you're talking to people, and sometimes, you know, you have those, we all have those negative friends. When the conversation starts to turn negative for too long, and you have to find ways to change the tone, like, you know, asking about the kids or something that's a little bit more positive. I can remember when, you know, I was younger and I used to go out after work and meet with some friends, and everybody would kind of cluster around each other and then just talk about all the negative things that happened throughout the day or at work. And yeah, that's okay for a minute, but for me, I always kind of tried to step away from that. I go down to the end of the table with someone that was not in that conversation, and I would ask them about their kids or what vacation they've been on, anything that was more positive that I didn't have to talk about work at the time, right? I don't necessarily, when I go home, want to talk about work in any fashion, positive or negative, but I definitely don't want to get stuck on negativity. And also, if you have your health and your family is safe, then that's something to be grateful for, right? So the gratitude is something that we should also be thankful for, all the things that come into our life. Like I mentioned, my grandkids, I could see a light at the end of the tunnel that, you know, my wife was, you know, still here and she was still fighting to get over her illness. So all those things I was grateful to. And then a smile can change your attitude, whether you realize that or not. If you don't believe me, the next time you feel low, smile and think positive thoughts and see how you feel. I've never met an angry person that smiled, right? If somebody's angry, they're not smiling at you. So put a smile on your face and it'll help change your look, the outlook. Smiling affects our emotion because of our brain and body connection. So it triggers scientifically measurable activity in our left frontal cortex. And that area of the brain is where happiness is registered. Now, the CDC recommends that we take a break from watching, reading, and listening to news stories, including social media, especially that negative news story. And pretty much that's what you find in the news. And it may seem even more compounded now with all the things that are going on in these days. I know this will be difficult for some of us. It can be a challenge to not go negative, especially when you hear negative things around you. The stories are everywhere, but we have the power to choose what we want to consume and how much of it we want to consume. So unplug, you know, turn the TV off, turn off the social media, and importantly, make sure that if you are listening to the news and social media, that you're listening to accurate sources, right? That you're making sure that the source that you're listening to is reliable. There's a lot of bad information out there about the virus going around, people drinking bleach and all kinds of crazy stuff out there. So we want to avoid those type of sources that don't put out accurate information. And then try to stay active for yourself and get away from those things. And then, you know, the more active you are, you're probably not sitting around watching all the news and paying attention to all the social media stuff. So take the opportunity to have some enjoyable time with your family. If you don't like your family, now that's a whole different story. You might want to go see a therapist about that. Just kidding with you. But for most of us, we like our family and we enjoy our family, and this is a good opportunity to reconnect. The CDC also suggests that people connect with each other, with your family and friends and other neighbors. Now, of course, we have that social distancing thing going on as well, but you can use FaceTime. Just yesterday, my wife and her group of friends from high school, they all got on and tried that group FaceTime thing for the first time, so they couldn't quite get it connected at first, but they finally worked out the bugs. So speak to people who you can trust about your concerns and how you feel, but also try to keep the conversation constructive. How can we help each other get through this experience? Another method of staying positive is reducing stress. Stresses are to exercise, get adequate sleep, and maintain a healthy diet. You can also do things with your family to keep them from getting all stressed out, like talking to them about what's going on and how they feel about it, right? Give them an opportunity to get things off of their chest, and then be positive about it and provide them a positive outlook of what things are going to look like down in the future. Remember, everyone in the household is affected differently, right? I was asking my daughter about my grandson the other day, and she's like, hey, he's a typical teenager. He's in his room playing his video games, and it doesn't seem to be affecting him at all, where she was a little bit more stressed out about it. You can also play your favorite games, engage in a hobby, or work on a project that you've been putting off that you can do. If you run out of ideas, check out this website, which is Family E-Guide, that has hundreds of ideas how to bust out boredom. Look, the bottom line is to take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. I can't stress this enough. As I mentioned earlier, I found that if I didn't take care of myself, that I wouldn't be any good for my wife, who relies on me to take care of not only her, but also her parents. So please, again, eat well, get plenty of rest, laugh. Oh man, I can't tell you how important it is to laugh and have fun, even in these situations. Me and my wife like to play games while she was in the hospital. We tried to play games that were fun. We laughed. We went on to Netflix and found comedy shows. Just do something to kind of relieve that stress and where you can have fun and laughter. You're definitely more relaxed when you're laughing and having fun. There's other things that you can do as well, like, as the picture shows, go take a hot, relaxing bubble bath or have a shower, right? Have your significant other give you a massage. There's many different things that you can do to take care of yourself. So again, in order to maintain that positive attitude, which is kind of a mentality thing, you have that choice. You can figure out how to influence your attitude and make it more positive. So being positive at home is really important. But while we're working at home, we also understand that other things can cause stresses for us, and, especially when you're working at home, right? Because now you have different challenges out there. And so there's a lot of distractions when you work from home, including your bed, your kids, TV, pets. The list goes on and on. When I worked as an independent insurance agent from home, it took me some time to set up a routine that could help me be more productive. And trust me, you really need a routine. And we're going to talk about routines in a minute, but it's very important that you establish a routine and stick with it. So what distractions are you facing while you're at home? And I'm sure that there's many different types of distractions. Your kids, the TV, uh, husbands and wives, housework, projects, just many things that you're like, hey, I'd much rather be doing this than working. And those are distractions that come up. Some of those are avoidable distractions and some are not. So of course your kids are not an avoidable distraction, right? You can't avoid, a 3-year-old knocking on your office door saying, hey, I'm hungry. Okay. But there are some avoidable distractions like your TV and all that social media and personal email. Those are things you can turn off or put on silent so that you don't have those things bothering you, right? Personal phone calls might be another one of those. There's probably a whole list and you can try to decide what those things are. One of the things that used to bother me when I worked from home was solicitors. I know that's something that we don't really face right now, but when I did and solicitors would knock at the door, I started putting up a sign that says, hey, I'm working, please do not disturb, right? So kind of like the hotel, right? Do not disturb me at this time. So I'm sure you have a list and you should write down what those avoidable distractions are and how can I set up something so that I can reduce the um, chances that these things will interrupt my workday. So we talked about earlier keeping a routine and establishing a routine. And so for me, when I work from home, and even now that I'm working from home, uh, I make sure that I kind of keep with the same routine I have that I did when I went to work, when I drove in every day. I get up at the same time, I go to sleep at the same time. I get up in the morning, take my shower, breakfast, watch Sports Center, get myself ready to get out the door. And I know I got to be at work at 8 o'clock. So even at home, I start my job at 8 o'clock. The only difference is I have an extra half an hour in my life to watch Sports Center. So set your work hours and stick to them the best that you can. It will be hard to maintain your routine, especially if you have kids at home. And if you do have kids at home, if anything's going to throw a curve ball in your day, it's going to be your kids. So stay flexible, even though you have a routine, stay flexible. And if things come up, then you deal with those. And then you kind of go back to your normal routine. And then another important part is to set your space up in a place where it's kind of isolated from the rest of the house. And some of you may already have that done. Some of you may be working from the kitchen, okay, or some places out in the open. Try your best to use a spare office or use an office if you have one, a spare room if you have one, even your own bedroom because it has a door and you can shut your door. You can set up a desk in your bedroom that you can work from there. That is more optimum than it is if you're working out at the kitchen. But the most important thing about making sure your work space is private is confidentiality. You want to make sure that you don't have client information out where someone in your family or friends or whoever it's at your house can see that information. And make sure at the end of the day that you secure any client information prior to ending your workday. Also, when you're working from home, you should take your breaks just like you would at work. I can't stress this enough. And I know I've said that several times, but there's definitely things that we should stress. And one of those is taking your breaks, even when you're at work, but especially, and also when you're at home. If it's hard for you to remember, you can set an alarm to tell you when it's time to take your breaks. There are three essential reasons to take a rest break from work. One of those is breaks trigger your brain to diffuse, decompress, and prevent fatigue. Rest breaks frees up work memory and allows you to focus more on the work that you started. Just like a memory disk or a stick, when it gets too full, it starts to work slower. Well, your brain is similar to that. So breaks restores motivation, it increases productivity and creativity. I know for me, after I take a break, I seem to find solutions to problems that had eluded me prior. Finally, attend all online meetings and contact your team regularly.